وعظيما سلطانك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وإمام المرسلين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
Amin. Shukran, Imam Diallo. Bishop, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Lord God Almighty, the Lord of the universe, you whom all power belongs, you who subdues all diabolical spirits throughout the whole world, those of us sitting here in the TRRC submit ourselves under your rulership, leadership, under your direction and your protection. We continue to ask that you will grant this commission the discerning power to be able to discern between truth and falsehood. And we also ask that all witnesses who will present themselves here in the TRRC will have the fear of you and will come here and will speak the truth, because nothing is hidden from you. And so, Lord, as we continue, Lord, we continue to ask for the patience of the people of this nation, that in your own due time you will grant us reconciliation, you will grant us reparation, and your justice will fall on those whom it is due. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Bishop, for your prayers. Council, are we ready with the witness for this morning or this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. Good afternoon, members of the audience. The witness is here. We are ready to proceed. May I ask that the officer bring in the witness, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Singhateh. Welcome back to the TRRC. Before you start, may I remind you that you're still under oath and that it is a criminal offense under the laws of this country to lie under oath. Could you confirm that?
Yes, sir, I do.
It is also an offense to lie before the TRRC. Could you confirm that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir. When you last appeared before the commission, that was on Thursday, last Thursday, we were talking about the arrest and subsequent detention of the former deputy chairman of the AFPRC, Mr. Sana Sabali, together with the former interior minister, Mr. Sadibu Haidara. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir, I do.
I would just wish us to recap a bit on the evidence, especially with regards to some of the areas that had been covered. And correct me if I am wrong in my characterization of the evidence thus far. You have accepted full responsibility for the execution of Lieutenant Basiru Barrow and Lieutenant Dotfal and that this execution was part of a decision that was taken by members of the AFPRC Council, of which you were a part. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I accepted responsibility for those executions.
You also accepted responsibility as a commander who ordered the execution of Fafanyang, Basiru Kamara, and E.M. Sise at Yundum Barracks on November 11th.
Yes, sir, I did.
You also accepted responsibility for your role as a member of the AFPRC who discussed, agreed, and decided on the execution of soldiers who were captured at Yundum Barracks, and also for your role in participating in the actual execution of soldiers at Yundum Barracks. I would give out the names. These include Jibril Sey, Lieutenant Jibril Sey, Lieutenant Abdoulaye Ba, alias Achopin Chopin, Lieutenant Modu Lamin Dabo, Cadet Amadou Silla, Lieutenant Bakari Mane, alias Nyancho, and Lieutenant Buba Jame.
Yes, sir, I did.
In essence, Mr. Singhateh, you have confessed participation through different levels of criminal responsibility for the unlawful execution of 11 members of the Gambia National Army.
Yes, sir, I did.
And these would be Lieutenant Basiru Baro, Lieutenant Abdoulaye Dotfal, Sergeant Fafanyang, Sergeant Basiru Kamara, Sergeant E.M. Sise, Lieutenant Jibril Sey, Lieutenant Abdoulaye Ba alias Achopin Chopin, Lieutenant Modu Lamin Dabo, Cadet Amadou Silla, Lieutenant Bakari Mane alias Nyancho, and Lieutenant Buba Jame.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singhateh. So we now move on to Sana Sabali, his arrest and detention. And you were telling us that Jame was giving you information that Sana Sabali wanted to depose him. And on a particular day, Jame sacrificed a ram in State House. Could you take your testimony from that point onwards, the day in which you were in Jame's office, when Jame made the telephone calls to Sana Sabali requesting that he comes to his office? Take it from there, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. On that day, as I had mentioned, when we entered Jame's office, he told me that he would prove to me that Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara wanted to depose him.
Up until this point, you had not been given convincing evidence that Sana Sabali wanted to depose him. Is that the case?
As I recall, yes, that is the case. Yes.
Proceed, please.
Yes, sir. So he told me that he will call Sana Sabali, the then vice chairman, and Sana Sabali would not come to his office to answer to him in the absence of Sadibu Haidara. So he called Sana on the intercom, and he got him, and he told him to come upstairs, that he wanted to discuss something with him. Excuse me. So immediately that happened, Sana Sabali called Sadibu Haidara. Now, the way we got to know is very clear. The intercom has the names of all of the ministries with LED lights. And when two ministries or departments are speaking to each other, the two lights appear on. So immediately the chairman had put down the phone. Sanasabali's light came back on, and Interior's light came on. So we knew that they were talking.
Were you able to establish who called who?
Yes, sir. It's that is simple, because the first light that comes on is the light of the phone that is active. And once you dial, once the other side picks up, then that light also comes on, and that means that there's an active call between them.
On this particular occasion, who called the other?
Yes. It was Sanasabali who called the Minister of Interior, Sadibu Haidara.
Proceed, please.
Yes. So the lights were on, and obviously the conversation would have gone on for the duration of that time, not too long, a couple of minutes, and then the lights went off, meaning that they had put the phone down.
Did you have any further discussions with Yaya Jammeh as to what to do after you realized that these two had been in a conversation and that conversation has ended?
Yaya Jammeh told me, you see, I told you he's calling Sadibu Haidara to come. He would not come upstairs until Sadibu Haidara comes to State House.
And then what happened after that?
He called Sana again, and the same thing happened. Sana called Sadibu Haidara, and the telephone was, the conversation was terminated, and a few minutes after, Yaya Jammeh called him again. But the conversation that we had was, you see, I'm telling you, they want to depose me, and he would not come unless Sadibu Haidara appears.
Apart from that, did you hold any other conversation?
With Jammeh?
Yes.
Just about the possibility of Sana coming with Sadibu Haidara and what they might do.
And?
Well, we agreed that they were going to come to try to depose Jammeh, then of course something had to be done.
Yes, and what was to be done?
Anyway, after the third time, if you would allow me, after the third time, Sadibu Haidara, the third telephone conversation, the third time that Yaya Jammeh had called, but bearing in mind that Jammeh was just one floor above Sanasabali. The offices were not, it was just one floor between them. He just had to come up the stairs and then come and answer. And that did not happen until Sadibu Haidara came to State House. But what we discussed on how to mitigate it was to get the orderlies to have them arrested when they came into the corridor before they entered Yaya Jammeh's office. So the orderlies were briefed, the ADC, Captain Bajenka at the time, the orderlies, Bakari Kamara, Musa Jammeh, and the group of orderlies that were there were all briefed.
Who briefed them?
Well, we briefed them together, but I gave them the tactical instructions on what to do.
Which were?
Which were that we would be in the offices opposite, just outside Yaya Jammeh's office. So you have the ADC's office and you have the private secretary's office, and we would be within these two offices and also the VIP waiting room, lying in wait, and when they come, we would have them arrested.
And how long did it take for them to arrive?
When eventually Sadibu Haidara showed up into State House, he came upstairs but went to the Vice Chairman's office, that was Sanasabali's office. After a few minutes, they came upstairs together.
And then what happened?
Then I had them arrested.
Could you describe how that happened?
Yes, sir. As soon as they came into the corridor, we could hear them coming. I came out of the office that I was in. I cannot recall whether it was the ADCs or the private secretaries, but I was in one of them. I came out with my pistol, and I told Sana Sabali to halt. He was in front, and they halted. And immediately Bakari Kamara or the Odlis from the other offices behind came and seized their hands, and kept them behind their backs and tied their hands, I believe.
And what happened after that?
Well, as soon as Sana Sabali was seized, I took his pistol. I took his pistol out of his holster, and I found that there was a round in the chamber, and the hammer was cocked all the way backwards, so it was ready to fire.
And was that unusual?
Well, sir, you don't go to anyone that you are not going to exchange live rounds with a weapon in that ready state, as far as I know and according to my training.
Do you know whether in fact Sana was also suspicious of you and Jame?
No, sir, I don't.
And if he was, wouldn't it be prudent that he put his weapon in a state that is ready to fire very quickly?
Absolutely, that is fully acceptable.
Proceed, please. And what happened afterwards?
So once once they had been fully disarmed, they were taken downstairs, but through Yaya Jame's office. And through the back door, they did not make eye contact with Jame. There was no contact or no conversation with Jame. I took them downstairs.
Was Jame there, in fact?
Yes, sir. He was in his office.
All right.
Yes, he was in his office. I took them downstairs. In the meantime, their orderlies were also arrested downstairs and around the State House compound.
And why was that done?
Well, I guess the belief was that if these two were involved, then perhaps the orderlies were also involved and informed, and in order to prevent a fight of some kind and loss of life, they had to be arrested.
And what happened after that?
I took Sana Sabali and Sadi Buhaidra downstairs, I believe with a couple of the orderlies. There was a vehicle waiting, a pickup. They were put in the pickup, and that was the last I saw of them.
And what happened after that with regards to Sana Sabali and Sadibu, as far as you know?
As far as I know, they were taken to Mile 2 prisons. They were eventually taken to court and tried.
And what was the outcome?
They were convicted. Sorry, I believe Sadi Buhaidra must have passed away before the end of the case. I believe so. I cannot remember exactly.
That was the case.
Okay, absolutely, yes. So Sana Sabali was convicted, and unfortunately Sadi Buhaidra passed away.
And do you recall for how long Sana was sentenced to be in prison?
I think it was either 9 or 11 years, one of the two.
9 years, if I recall his testimony. Mm-hmm. And during that period, of course, he testified that he was tortured mercilessly.
During the course of the trial?
Prior to his trial.
Sorry, did you...
During his pre-trial detention,
okay,
he was subjected to a lot of torture.
Mm-hmm. Yes, is that a question?
Yes.
I don't know anything about the torture of Sana Sabali.
Did you expect it?
No, I didn't expect him to be tortured. What I did expect is perhaps maybe he'll be beaten here and there, but not really tortured to that extent.
Mr. Singhateh, in
Yes.
the Gambia National Army,
Mm-hmm.
what is their definition of torture?
It's the general definition of torture. But when I say beating, I mean don't mean torture on the level that had been described by Sana Sabali during his testimony. That is inconceivable. Now, a few slaps and a beating here and there is nothing compared. Even, I'm not subscribing to it. I'm not saying that it is justified. What I'm saying is that that one I could, ordinarily foresee, because even if I was in detention under that, I would expect the same. But I never conceived that he would have been tortured at the scale on which he testified here.
But when you participated in his arrest,
yes, sir,
you expected, you foresaw that he would be malhandled or manhandled or maltreated somehow by the forces.
Yes, sir. As in my testimony beforehand, I told you that even on bush exercises, if you're on one side and you are caught by the other, you are manhandled, and they will tell you that it is part of the training. You've got to expect it. If you are caught by the enemy, you've got to be able to.
Is there a realization in the Gambia National Army?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Is there a realization in the Gambia National Army that every human being has a right not to be tortured? Do you have that realization in the Gambia National Army?
So, like I testified beforehand, we did have workshops with the International Red Cross Society that were organized by Mr. Senghor. I met him when I was coming in to Banjul, and he did make sure that he took us all through all of these things.
But would I be accurate in saying, really, they were honored more in their breach than in their respect or in their observance?
Well, sir, you see, what actually obtains on the ground, if you are caught by the enemy and they're seeking information from you, they do have the tendency to ensure that they extract it by any means. Now, if you are not thoroughly trained to withstand a certain measure of pain and pressure, then you could easily give away vital information that will cost a lot of lives. And so, in order to avoid that, we are trained that you will be malhandled or you will be tortured if you are caught. And as a matter of fact, that if you are, not to give any information away apart from your name, your rank, and your number.
Well, that is when you are fighting enemy forces, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And in that situation, you expect that out of the ordinary, the enemy forces may not comply with international law, or would not comply with their international obligations. Isn't it the case?
Absolutely. That's why we are trained.
You would comply with the law. Isn't that an expectation?
That is how it should be. Definitely, I do agree.
But you are telling us that that is not how it was.
That is correct. It was not like that.
There was a culture of torture in the Gambia National Army.
I wouldn't express it like that, because I would like to say that there are a lot of fine officers, very disciplined officers, very good officers and soldiers that perhaps would not engage in this.
Torture was pervasive in the Gambia National Army.
What I do know is that when we are on bush exercises and you are caught by the...
In this commission, is that in every instance in which the Gambia National Army arrests its members in any allegations of coup d'etat or suspicions of coup d'etat, the subject is beaten mercilessly. That is what we have seen so far. On the basis of that, wouldn't you agree that torture is perhaps a modus operandi in the Gambia National Army?
I would agree that it is prevalent.
Thus, it is pervasive, it is a way of doing things in the Gambia National Army.
It has been, yes, sir.
Good. So when you arrested Sana,
yes,
and Sadibu, you expected that they would receive a similar treatment?
Yes, but not as had been explained here. That one I never imagined.
Earlier on, when you testified on Thursday,
Yes, sir.
I confronted you with the evidence of Mr. Dembanjai, who said that you and Jame planned the arrest of... That's not correct. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir, I do recall, but let me give an explanation.
Please go ahead.
You see, with regards to Dembanjai, I don't think anyone would have dared to discuss something so sensitive in his presence. Because...
Why would you say that?
Well, like the Wolofs who say, "Lamañ bi dafa ratax," you know, you will hear it somewhere else before it is even implemented. But it was not the case because there was no plan to arrest Sana at that particular time, as far as I know.
You're suggesting that as at the time, he claimed to have been present when he heard you and Jame talking about the arrest, there was no such plan to arrest. Is that what you suggested?
Yes, sir, that is what I'm suggesting.
But do you realize that the day that he mentioned is just a few days apart from the day of his arrest?
That doesn't mean that it was mentioned on the day that he said.
Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is that you therefore must have had only a few days to plan Sana's arrest.
There was nothing elaborate about the plan. It's not like you have to take a major objective, a building or a hill or something. It was that on the day when Sana was going to come upstairs, that he would be arrested.
But doesn't that in fact suggest that Sana was onto nothing at the time, and that was fully known to you and Jame?
Sorry, onto nothing. What do you
He
mean?
had no plan at all, seeing how easy it was to just have him arrested.
I don't fully understand exactly what you're saying.
The fact that it was so easy to have him arrested, wouldn't that suggest that he was not onto anything? He did not have any plans of staging a coup as at that time?
No, it doesn't mean that. You don't need much for a palace coup. For instance, if I was not there, and if the plans were actually real, and he did have that intention to arrest Jame in his office, and Sana Sabali and Sadi Buhaira entered and met Jame alone, of course they could have arrested him.
But all you have just said is putting it in the conditional tense. If, clearly suggesting that from all that is known, there was no such plan at all.
Absolutely not. I'm giving you a scenario to show you how easy it could have been for them to implement a plan of that nature.
But in reality, Jame offered you nothing that proved that Sana intended to overthrow him.
Apart from the proof of the telephone conversation, which does not hold much water, definitely I agree.
So by your own admissions, what Jame told you did not hold any water. It should not convince anybody that this individual was going to overthrow him.
What convinced me was the mere fact that he was going to the head of state with a weapon ready to fire.
No, but at that point he was already arrested.
Yes, of course. I mean, you cannot take risks. You have to make sure that you effect the arrest and make sure that the situation is safe. If not, you cannot wait until he bounces and then try to arrest.
The point I am making is that Sana was going to be arrested whether or not he had a plan to make a coup d'etat. It was clear to you that what Jame told you was far from convincing.
Let me put it this way. At the point of arrest, if Sana Sabali was not armed, or if his weapon was in a normal state, I most likely would have apologized to him and returned him his weapon and told Jammeh that this is not happening.
Are you suggesting, Mr. Singhateh, that you expected that Sana Sabali's weapon would have been on the position to fire as at the time you arrested him?
No, but I had to be sure. If the head of state tells you that these people are coming to arrest me, they are armed, you know that they are armed, and one person has been called, he waits for his partner to come, refuses to come upstairs until he has backup. Obviously, there is something suspicious. And with security, you cannot take chances because you might not have another one.
And Mr. Singhateh,
yes,
let's be honest about this. Is it really realistic and feasible that Jammeh would have all those guards there at State House and just two people come armed with pistols would just come and arrest the head of state like that and just whisk away with him? Is that reasonable? Is that what you're making us, that's what you want us to believe?
He could have been arrested, the door could have been locked, he could have been arrested, he could have been shot, anything could have happened.
Isn't it the protocol that when you enter, when you go to the president's office, you leave your weapon outside?
Yes, sir, but at that time we used to carry our weapons everywhere we go.
Okay, but couldn't that protocol have been implemented at that time to ensure that everybody would leave his weapon outside?
Well, it would have been very strange to implement a protocol at the last minute, especially if we had not discussed it as a council.
Yeah, but why did you say that?
Well, because you cannot just implement a protocol just off the top of your head. It has to be discussed by council and agreed that from now on, when we are coming together, we leave our weapons behind.
And that is the normal procedure for the country.
Taken Sana Sabali's weapon away at the door of Jammeh's office would not have held water.
And you think that staging an arrest at that time was the answer?
That was the safest course of action at that time.
Mr. Singhateh, the evidence we have is that, in fact, you and Jammeh decided to purge Sana by having him at one's imagination.
It could have been a figment of Jammeh's imagination and that he was playing at and trying to drum up. However, I was not part of that.
But you was going to do?
I think I tried to explain the circumstances at the last sitting. There was definitely some major problems going on between Jammeh and Sana Sabali.
Yes, but you, just allow me for interjecting on this. That Sana was attempting to make a coup d'etat, was planning a coup d'etat against Jammeh.
It didn't show much proof or much evidence that something was going to happen.
But nonetheless, you acted on. But don't you think, Mr. Singhateh, that it is in fact wrong under the circumstances for you to have done so in view of the fact that there was nothing convincing to reasonably arrive at a conclusion that an arrest had to be made?
Sana Sabali was extremely violent. If he had gone past and into Jammeh's office and something had happened, that would have been on my hands for not acting to begin with.
But do you realize that the same accusation is made against you, that you are extremely violent, but you've not been arrested by anybody?
By who? I have not heard that.
Oh, well, it points out to the fact that you are the most, to the accusation that you are the most brutal. And in fact, when we talked about your furor at the prison, I cited you the evidence of Abu Bakar Jeng, who said that during that night of torture, you are the most brutal.
Well, I don't want to go back into that evidence, but I'm quite sure from where he was standing inside his cell, he would not have been able to tell who was the most brutal and who was not. But what I can assure you is that apart from those who have come before this commission to anyone in society, and you are free to go and find out and ask about that. If I am being accused of being brutal by people who have come before the commission expecting some kind of reparation or compensation at the end of the day, then so be it. I know my track record is clear as far as that is concerned, sir.
My point here is the fact that you accused Sana of being violent. Similar accolades have been attributed to you, and you've not been arrested.
What you are doing, you're taking these things in isolation. I took everything in cumulation. The situation that I was presented with was somebody who was not pulling with the head of state, who the president had reason to believe that was going to unseat him, and so I had to act.
Would you agree that you were brainwashed by Jammeh into believing falsely his claims, or that you were in fact just happy to go along with Jammeh because it served your purpose?
No, sir, I was not brainwashed.
Not serve your purpose. You clearly benefited from the removal of Sana Sabally from the scene, didn't you?
And what do you mean by benefit?
You got appointed to the position of vice chairman of the AFPRC, a position that was occupied by Sana Sabally.
Yes, sir, but that, as far as I'm concerned, is additional responsibility. It didn't come with any perks.
But a promotion nonetheless.
Well, yes, I was made vice chairman of the AFPRC in the absence of Sana.
And you and Sana, there was a rift between the two of you. You called it a rift. I called it bad blood or grudge, and you had your moment and you took it.
Absolutely not, sir. From the beginning, I was never hungry for position. I was very willing to go back to barracks immediately after the takeover. Never at any point in time have I asked for position, have I lobbied for position. In fact, when I was removed, I stayed to myself, and I never came or asked anybody for any favors. So if you want to insinuate that I did this because I was looking for position, then that is wrong. If I wanted it from the beginning, from day one, I would have had it.
Mr. Singhateh, we have had the AFPRC. They all claimed to be soldiers with a difference. They're not interested in corruption. They're not interested in staying in power, but we all saw what happened. Corruption became more endemic. Staying in power became a matter of life and death for them.
Well, sir, I feel offended that you generalize it like that, because what I do know is that when I came to government in 1994, I didn't come with anything. When I left, I hardly left with anything. I left with a deficit and a massive overdraft in my account, an incomplete building, and very, very little to show for it. So if I was greedy and corrupt, everyone would have known that by now.
Mr. Singhateh, but you stayed in government.
Yes,
for
sir.
how many years?
For 13 years, I believe.
For 13 years?
Yes, sir.
That is not really the story of a person who came into office just to remove a government, do transition, and go back to barracks. Would you agree with that?
No, sir. I thought we were talking about the corruption. I mean, I don't know.
I use two premises.
Yes.
One is the corruption, and the other is self-perpetuation in power.
So the self-perpetuation in power came differently. That was brought about by members of society themselves who came and asked Yahya Jammeh to retire from the armed forces. But let me explain exactly what happened. Immediately that Jammeh had promised to retire and did so, myself, Lamin Kababajo, and Yankuba Toure were still in the force. The two of them came to me subsequently and told me that, look, Vice, Our president, our leader, has retired, and he is going to stand as president. We came with him. We cannot abandon him at this point in time, that we should also go and retire and join him. I'm trying to explain, yes.
Go ahead.
Of the suggestion, and he welcomed it. But that suggestion didn't come from me. In fact, I shied away from politics pretty much. It's not my kettle of fish.
But Mr. Singhateh,
Yes.
you actually became the head of the AFPRC campaign, didn't you?
No, I was Secretary General of the of the APRC party from 1997 to 2007, something of the sort.
And how would you describe that? Is an approach that holier than thou, I'm not involved in this and that, I'm not interested in positions, is not actually supported by your subsequent track record. You remained in
This holier than thou attitude. When you started this session, you wanted to confirm to me what I had admitted to, and that definitely falls extremely short of holier than thou. Council, I can only put across my story. Yes, I was part of a military government. Yes, that military government was asked by followed suit. I resigned my commission, and we formed a political party. But it was not for the reason of amassing wealth, because I didn't amass wealth. It was to continue the development that we had started. Have been foolhardy to abandon that development program midway. So if we were given the opportunity to build more schools, to build more hospitals, to build more roads, then through a democratic process, we would take it.
the point I am trying to make here, Mr. Singhateh,
Yes, sir.
is that you saw your career in front of you, and your career ambitions got rid of him.
Sir, that is completely wrong. You see, during the transition period, the security situation of the country was extremely tense. Sometimes we would not know whether we would live to see the next week or not. So there was nothing like career planning at that point in time.
But there was career ambition.
Career ambition?
Yes.
No, I had and showed no career ambition in any form or manner.
In fact, we received testimony from Mr. Dembanjai also, who said that you were envious of Sana Sabali. You wanted to be the number 2 guy, and that is why you participated in eliminating Sana. And that is a theory that is supported in several quarters. What's your take on that?
Well, if Dembanjai has a theory, because I've never sat down with Dembanjai to talk about position or any other matter concerning my personal advancement at any time during the time that we have known each other. So it's surprising that that would come out from him, because I don't know where he has based that theory on. Yes.
According to him, he based it on his observations of what was happening in and around State House, and also your role in all of that. He was able to assess that you are very ambitious. You saw Sana as a stumbling block to your career progression. You therefore gladly participated.
I didn't move into the normal residence of the Vice President. I took the small accommodation at Cape Point. I didn't take the motorcade and everything that came with it. I decided to maintain exactly what I had when I was Minister of Defense. So, as far as I'm concerned, if Dembanjai had opened his eyes to, because my attitude and the way I had comported myself is completely the opposite to what Dembanjai has said.
But obviously, use of the perks or public use of the perks do not necessarily show that one did not have an ambition to attain a particular level?
Well, sir, unless Dembanjai could have been inside me or inside...
Dembanjai was in a position where he could see from your conduct that you wanted something. One does not necessarily have to enter into another person's mind in order to assess that a person wanted A or B thing. From ordinary observation, one may, in several occasions, be in a position to make that assessment. Is that not right?
That is not right, sir. You see,
I took the position.
Sir, let me finish, please. I didn't take everything. I think if somebody is observing, you take the person for what he is. I don't know what he has observed other than me not taking everything that came along with the Vice President's office when I could. So that is not really being fair.
He did not talk about your interest in the perks. He talked about your...
Only put across my side of the story, and whoever wants to believe it, it's fine.
You have been hard on that, and then we would make progress. Soon after Sana was arrested, the regime went on propaganda mode and lied about what happened. Correct?
When you say the regime, can you please qualify that?
It's the government. The government issued statements, false statements about the circumstances of Sana Sabali's arrest.
What I can recall is that Yahya Jammeh was the one who stated certain things. I came and pointed a pistol at him, and it didn't fire. And he... anyway, that was the story. Everybody heard it. I cannot remember everything verbatim.
The suggestion was, correct me if I'm wrong, that Mr. Sabali and Mr. Haidara entered into Yahya Jammeh's office and they both pointed their pistols at him and fired. It did not work, and Yahya Jammeh brought in the guards and they were arrested. That's the story, isn't it?
Something like that, yes.
And
the head of state makes a declaration of the occurrence of something, and you come out and rebut that?
Yes, Mr. Singhateh.
In a military government?
Yes, Mr. Singhateh. We expected that the conduct of our officials would be above board, would be beyond reproach. Shouldn't that be an expectation from a government that is to come and correct the ills of the past?
Well, let me just say this in Wolof. Léegi laa xam ne dang ma bañ.
Bañu wala Edward. Yow sax xam nga loolu.
A military government with a head of state like Jammeh, he says one thing and you come out and say, no, that didn't happen. It happened X, Y, Z. I would not have been here today. So...
Mr. Singhateh, you participated in the arrest.
Yes, sir, I did.
And you participated in the arrest on the basis of some false conclusions that Yahya Jammeh made you believe, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And thereafter he made false, glaringly false statements about that arrest.
Yes, sir.
And it's quite obvious to you that he had nefarious intentions.
Subsequently, yes, yes.
You did nothing about it.
Of course not.
You could have resigned your position, couldn't you have?
And go where?
Many places to go, Mr. Singhateh.
Like where? Where would I go?
You can go into exile like all our journalists did.
So
you could have stood for the truth. Couldn't you have?
So I go into exile. You see, Council, let us not make it seem as trivial as it sounds right now.
I don't think it is sounding trivial. This
no,
is
sir,
serious.
Because you can go into exile as if you just get up and go into exile.
How many people did, Mr. Singhateh?
Yes,
some people were met at the market. They just pack a bag and disappear, and they go. That happened in Gambia because of the circumstances.
Well,
if if you did not want to be associated with untruth, if you do not want to be associated with falsehood, government plots to eliminate people, you either support and go along with it, or you resign and go away.
That is easier said than done.
You chose to continue with your job.
I chose to continue to serve my country.
As if nothing has happened.
Not as if nothing had happened.
Well, what did you do other than carrying on as if nothing has happened?
Well, of course, I carried on and I continued to do my duty.
Exactly. While Sana Sabali continued to wallow in jail on falsehood.
Well, eventually he was convicted, yes.
Convicted on trump-up charges?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes. And convicted on false evidence?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
In fact, I have the NIA report here, Mr. Chair, it's been in evidence. And the NIA also contributed to that falsehood by coming up with a report. Read out, Mr. Chair, for the record. This is the report of the investigation into the events of January 27, 1995, the case of former Vice Chairman Sana Sabali and others. And on page 3, from the middle, that's the third paragraph, it reads as follows. On this day in question, Sana B. Sabali and Sadibu Haidara were alleged to have walked past the personal guards of the chairman into the chairman's office unannounced, in a manner rather unusual and unbecoming of them. The guards were alarmed and surprised to have seen them behave in such a manner for the first time since the takeover. Having forced their way into the office of the chairman, the emergency security bell from the same office was heard. That bell clearly indicates that something was amiss. And such uniformed and plainclothes personal guards of the chairman rushed into that office. These officers were Khalifa Bajinka, Musa Jame, Almamo Mane, Bakari Kamara, Manlafikor. These officers, on entering the office of the chairman, found Captains Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara standing each with his pistol pointed at the chairman, who was seated. Confusion ensued. No sooner did they enter when the chairman ordered the arrest of the two captains. After a short scuffle, the officers succeeded in disarming and arresting the two captains. They were subsequently searched. Captain Sadibu Haidara had on him one Chinese pistol, serial number with several live rounds of ammunition. Captain Sana Sabali similarly had on him, and they iterated the items. That is false, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
And this is the basis of the conviction of Sana Sabali, and he had to serve 9 years in prison. It was a travesty of justice.
Yes, sir, it was.
But Mr. Singhateh, you knew all the while that this was a terrible injustice against someone who you called your colleague in the council.
Yes, sir.
And you did nothing about it.
No, sir, I didn't do anything at the time.
All right. But do you share responsibility, really, for Sana Sabali's fate?
Absolutely, I do.
What do you say to Sana Sabali?
Sana Sabali, it's...
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
okay,
please.
right.
I'm sorry I'm distracting you, but I have other work to do as well. So please proceed.
Absolutely, yes. Of course, I would really like to apologize to Sana Sabali. And it's not the first time that I have attempted to do so. The first time that I had done so was through Bishop Cleary. We met at a function, and he told me that he had, because he visited the prisons often, and he told me he had seen Sana, and that Sana was doing well, that he was very strong in faith. And I told him, please, if you see him again, not only give him my regards, but please offer my apology. I am sorry. When was this? This was, I cannot remember the year, but it must have been perhaps halfway into his sentence, something of the sort.
You were still serving as a cabinet minister.
Yes, sir, I was.
But Mr. Singhateh, isn't this travesty of such magnitude that it ought to have compelled you to resign your job as a cabinet minister?
Trumped up. There could still have been, through the investigation, some proof that Sana Sabali was trying to overthrow.
This is the investigation report. This is what formed the basis of
wrong.
the charges.
The investigation is wrong. It was flawed. In fact, this is a complete fabrication. It did not occur like that. It did not.
But didn't this really impact you something apart from sending a mere apology through a priest?
It's not a priest, it's a bishop, yes. Anyway, definitely not. We all know what Sana Sabali was like, so even though I am fully aware that the charges were trumped up and were wrong, the conviction was based on a report that had been completely fabricated. Of my mind, I thought perhaps it could have been true.
No, rather he deserved it because he was violent.
So don't put words in my mouth.
But that's what I should do.
No, sir, you cannot put words. You should not.
I would put words in your mouth. It's up to you to adopt them or to reject them.
Well, if you want to put words in my mouth, like I told you on the first day, come and sit here and give my testimony.
No, I put them in your mouth. I don't say them for you.
No,
so
then
go ahead, Mr.
You
Mr.
can put them
Singhateh.
to me, but not in my mouth. But
all right.
counsel,
okay, tell us
counsel,
what you would say.
See, the thing
answer
is,
the question. Just answer the question.
No. In fact, I disagree with that. But the bottom line is, counsel, is that, of course, I deeply regret my involvement in the arrest of Sana Sabali. You see, Sana Sabali, we launched the coup. He launched it, but we were the ones who discussed it, conceived it, right from the beginning. Even before that, we were friends. And the rift or the breakdown in our relationship was highly regrettable. You see, we were so close that we used to call each other Ranger Buddy. He was my Ranger Buddy. And you see, in the military, for Rangers, you're always advised not to move alone. You move with your partner, with your friend. You get each other out of trouble. You move together. You live together. And that is how we used to address each other. After 1994, unfortunately, things broke down, and it is highly regrettable. You see, even when Sana Sabali was still in prison, his son Usman would spend nights at my house. You see, I have never lost that affinity.
And were you comfortable with that? His son spending the night at your house, and you are there with the full knowledge that you put his father in jail together with Jame for doing nothing?
Well, if my son was at his house, I would be happy that he's there because I would know that he was in good hands. What I'm just trying to explain to you is that that affinity had never gone away. True, of course, I participated in his arrest, and I'm not denying that fact. But also, on the other hand, too, I deeply regret it, and if I could take it back, I would.
But you had a chance to take it back. You realized during the period of his detention that this was unjust, this was unlawful. You regret it, but you wouldn't do anything about it. That is the issue here.
There was nothing much that I could do. I can recall you asked me, why didn't you go and visit him? And my mind straightway went to a Maninka proverb. That means that if your friend is wearing your enemy's trousers, then obviously abenyimela kotio, so there was no way that I could have reached out.
The thing is, Mr. Singhateh, it appears that you put your career ambitions above all else, including Sana's liberty, including Sana's freedom, including the law, including the truth at that point in time.
No, I did not. At the point that I arrested him because I believed that he needed to be stopped and checked before he entered Yahya Jammeh's office, failing which something drastic could have happened that we would have all regretted.
Even though you are not presented with any evidence to remotely suggest that that was in fact a plausible possibility.
So I think you're forgetting the demeanor of Sana Sabali. He was not just your ordinary person that will get up and go to Yahya Jammeh. He had terrorized most people. And frankly, I believe even Yahya Jammeh was terrified of him too.
That may very well be the case, but nonetheless no justification. But let us move on. The evidence we received also suggests that not only did you arrest Sana Sabali at State House, but you also took him to Mile 2.
No, sir, I did not take him to Mile 2.
Let me confront you with the evidence of some of the witnesses. And the first one is that of Mr. Ibrahim Chongan. And this is what he had to say. He was asked the question, when you went back to security wing number 4 in January, that was the first time you came into contact with those others you left behind when you were moved to security wing number 1. Is that right? And he answered, yes, that is right. Now I came back, I met Sirif Gomez, Sar, everybody, press, everybody, that we left them on that night of the 6th. And then we hugged, and then afterwards they started to debrief us, to tell us what happened in our absences. Initially, how they were told that we were dead, until afterwards they had doubts that we were there, etc. And that is how we remembered everything. Question. So now you are telling us that Sabali and Haidara were brought in by Singhateh. Which Singhateh are you referring to? He said, yes, Captain Edward Singhateh and Warrant Officer Martin, who is now, I don't know, a brigadier. I can't remember that probably. But somebody, I forgot. But he was Singhateh's orderly. That is what Mr. Chongan had to say. Do you dispute that?
Yes, sir. The last time I saw Sana Sabali was at the bottom of the stairs at the back door to the President's office, the President and Vice President's office at State House. I did not go to Mile 2. I went straight back up to see Jammeh.
And Babukar Jeng also, who testified here, told us that he was asked this question, when did that feeling that they could come back end? He was talking about having been told before that, the soldiers would come back and it would be their turn. And he answered as follows: I can only speak for myself. That ended the day that we are brought back as a result of the arrest and detention of Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara. At least there was huge sigh of relief when we saw colleagues that we thought were dead, were massacred, buried, and forgotten. It rekindled a lot when we saw them alive, and to some extent brought back some kind of sanity to my senior colleagues that we thought we will never ever see them again, that you let down, that you could not help. For a moment, it was a nice feeling to see them back again, that they were alive. He was asked the question, do you recall who brought in Lieutenant Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara, second lieutenant? He answered, I peeped through my window and I saw that they were escorted by Edward Singhateh. And the only other soldier that I could recognize was Alaji Martin, who was among the group. But the rest I do not know, but I saw the two of them, and their hands bound behind their backs, and Edwards was vividly present. That is a second witness who said you were present with Alaji Martin. Both witnesses say it was you and Alaji Martin. What do you say to that?
So I don't even know which cell he was put in. I was not there.
Another witness, Mr. Sirif Gomez, was asked the same question, and I quote, so let us talk about when Sadibu Haidara and Sana Sabali were brought. Can you tell us who brought them in or what happened that day? And he answered, if I recall again, I think it was Edward who escorted them, or thereabout, I cannot remember. But now I know they were brought in those days. So he too said it was you who escorted them.
Well, sir, you see, the book that has come out from that mile 2 is completely similar, too strikingly similar. They all have the same narration of each and every event, and they're in different cells. Anyway, sir, the only thing that I can do is present my side. What I do know is that after 25 years, it is highly unusual.
We are not suggesting that statements matched 100%.
The only thing that I can say is that I did not take Sana Sabali to Mile 2 prison.
Well, Mama Cham,
yes, Mama Cham, from the same prison, yes, I know.
Who was also present, did indicate in the transcript of his statement that, and I quote, it was Edward Singhateh and the same group of soldiers in handcuffs with Sadibu Haidara, and then the warden hurriedly opened and asked us to come out of the security wing. So he was asked the question, you said Edwards came in with some soldiers escorting the two. Do you recall any one of them? He said, well, certainly no. I knew that he was the officer, and then there was a detail of NCOs that were with him, but certainly I cannot recall any of them. He too said you actually brought in Sana Sabali on that day. And Captain Kambi also said the same thing. We have 5 witnesses. All of them are unanimous on the point that you escorted Sana Sabali to the prison. You still deny that?
Sir, I don't even know which cell he was put in. I did not take Sana Sabali to Mile 2.
All right, okay. So the commission would make up its findings on that. But seeing that you have regretted what happened to Sana Sabali, what would you say to him?
I'll say I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry. I know from hearing parts of his testimony, because I could not listen to everything due to the graphic description of what happened to him. I could not imagine how much pain and suffering he had been through. And really, I'm just trying to find words to be able to tell him how much I regret exactly what happened. I'm really sorry. And I wish I could tell him in person. I just don't know how to begin.
Would you be willing to participate in some reconciliation meeting with Sana Sabali?
Absolutely.
And you apologize to him?
Of course.
And beg for his forgiveness?
Absolutely, I will.
Now let us move on to the arrest of PPP supporters who are alleged to have been demonstrating or planning a demonstration and were detained at the at the Fajara barracks. Amongst them were O.J. Jallow, former Minister of Agriculture, Usainu Dabo, lawyer Usainu Dabo, Alaji MC Cham, and others. What can you tell us about that?
Well, as far as I can recall, we were given information by the National Intelligence Agency that there was going to be a demonstration, I think, split into two groups, one before the American Embassy, and another one before the British High Commission. So they had recommended that it be quashed, that those wanting to demonstrate should not be allowed to demonstrate, and so I believe it must have been the security chiefs that devised a plan on how to effect the arrests.
Who was briefed about the impending demonstration?
I believe council was briefed.
Did council take a decision?
Either that or the president was briefed and then he briefed us. I cannot remember exactly, but I know it was discussed.
Did the council agree that that demonstration be crushed?
Well, of course, yes, because, I mean, definitely, it was an illegal gathering. There was no permit. Demonstrating in front of foreign embassies was not a good thing for our country. And the security chiefs were given the go-ahead to make sure that they effected arrests of those who participated in the demonstration.
And given the go-ahead by the council, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the council made the decision for the security chiefs to go ahead and cross this so-called illegal gathering?
Yes, sir.
And what happened after that?
I believe a number of people were arrested. I cannot recall how many, but I do understand that there were so many that they had to be secured at Fajara barracks.
And under what conditions?
I don't exactly know. I was told that they were kept in a hangar.
Is a hangar a place for detention?
No, but that was the only place that was available at the time that could house them.
Did you care to find out the conditions of detention?
No, sir, I did not.
And Mr. MC Cham, you and him had a good relationship or family ties, didn't you?
Absolutely, sir, we did.
I mean, we had his evidence before the commission, and he told the commission that, in fact, your family lived in his home.
Yes, sir. In fact, after my dad died in 1993, he even refused to collect rent from us for a whole year because of the close relationship between our families.
And in fact, as at the time of the coup that brought you into power, you were still residing in his home?
Yes, sir, we were.
He was amongst those who was arrested and detained?
Yes, sir.
He was tortured?
I am not aware of any of them being beaten personally.
Modus operandi of the Gambia security forces.
These are civilians. It's different. For military personnel, you expect it, but you should not meet that out on civilians. That's wrong.
The situation, the prevailing situation at the time was also that civilians were not spared whenever they crossed the government. Isn't that the case, Mr. Singhateh?
Well, I did listen to some of their testimony, and I understand that some of them were beaten, and it was wrong. It should not have happened.
And their detentions were also in inhumane conditions. Wasn't that the case?
Well, sir, like I said at the time, I did not go to visit them to find out what conditions they were under, but they should have been duly and amply taken care of.
At this time, Mr. Singhateh, you were Minister of Defense, weren't you?
Yes, sir, I was.
And the camp in which they were detained was also under your jurisdiction, your responsibility.
Absolutely.
And here were civilians detained in your camp, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, civilians should not be detained in a military camp.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
But you did not do anything to stop that, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
And they were detained in horrible conditions. You did not care to find out whether the conditions were suitable?
Yes, sir, I did not find out whether the conditions were suitable or not.
And they were kept in illegal detention for over a year?
Yes, sir, they were kept for quite a while. I cannot remember the duration.
And do you agree that as a council, all of you are responsible for making that decision, which violated the rights of these people, arresting them and keeping them in a military camp under horrible conditions?
Absolutely, sir, I agree.
You accept responsibility for that too?
Yes, sir, I do.
MC Cham was pretty much a very close person to your father. Did you at least intercede on his behalf?
No, sir, I could not intercede on his behalf.
You did for Sarah Jangha?
What I did, that was for Sarah Jangha's wife at the beginning regarding her vehicle. Later on, when Ali Ngom was Secretary General, we had discussions on how to approach Jammeh to return his properties and allow him to come home. But even then, you know, he was telling me that, you know, you're a man, that you have to find him in the correct mood to be able to put certain things across. Otherwise, he will feel that that you are trying to side with people that don't like him and are trying to undermine him.
I am content to leave it at this point, that these people, their detentions was unlawful.
Yes, sir.
They were detained in inhumane conditions.
Yes, sir.
These were violations of their rights.
Yes, sir.
And you, as a member of the council and Minister of Defense, you share responsibility for these violations.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. What do you say to them? Some of them described very horrible tortures. In fact, some of the victims died soon afterwards. We've been told of Raif Diab. We've been told of the man from Jarasoma. There are a few people who died soon after, very old people who were badly treated. What do you say to these people and their families? About 60 people were detained, including some women.
Extremely sorry. Maybe I'll go into the local languages if you would.
By all means.
Okay. First, because maybe MC Cham is Wolof and a number of them were. So, Mange Jegalu, di Jegalu, di ñaan wa réew mi yépp ñu jégal ñu ci luñ def. Surtout, sorry.
Could you allow the interpreters, Mr. Singhateh? Sorry,
yes,
sorry for stopping. Indicate to us that you're ready. Okay, please go ahead.
Mange Jegalu.
He said he's begging for forgiveness.
Di ñaan kilifa yépp yuñ téye woon ci waxtu boobu noonu.
Appealing to all the elders who were arrested at that time.
Ak seen njaboot yépp.
Plus all their.
Ak ñu ma xamut yépp.
And those who didn't know him.
Lu xewoon.
What happened?
Warutoon a demee noonu.
Shouldn't have gone that way.
Pour téye sa kilifa noonu.
Just to arrest an elder like that.
Sax jaarut yoon.
It's not even lawful.
Même su fekkee ne sax lum def jaarut ak loi.
Even if he does something which is not lawful.
Waruloo ko téye noonu def ko loolu.
You shouldn't have arrested him like that and do something like that to him.
surtout si condition yi ngi leen tegoon.
Much more the conditions that they were in.
xam naa ne si luñ jaar.
I know what they went through.
xëj na genn wàll bi yëpp mënuñ koo nettali.
Maybe half of them will not be able to recite what happened.
No, maybe they would not be able to narrate even half of it.
Maybe they will not be able to narrate half of it.
Parce que weeruñ ko fenn.
And it has no justification.
te warutoon a am.
And it shouldn't have even happened.
ñeneen yi bàyyi lañ si ñun.
Some of them were fathers to us.
maa si MC Cham.
People like MC Cham.
MC Cham foog naa waxoon na ne sax ne ba mu tasee
With me.
dëgg la.
Yes, it's true.
parce que ku nekk bàyyi si yow.
It's true because somebody who is a father to you.
ba pare mu daj yenn daj. amit am nga si wala si lum daj.
And you also have a hand in what happened to him.
xana nga ñàkk a nekk gorde.
Well, even if you are not an honest person with him or even greet him.
ndik gàcce bi ak rus.
Because of the shame and the feeling I had at that time.
du moom kenn rek ñeneen ak ñeneen.
Not only him, there are
Cham.
our last meeting at Banjul Magistrate Court, Mr. MC Cham.
dama toogoon si boram mu nekk di ma wax suma yëpp lu ma achieve.
I was very happy about me.
parce que dama taka suma ndiga.
Because I was somebody who was very, very strong.
Hardworking.
Okay.
ba pare ma dellu school.
And I went back to school.
njëriñ suma boppa njëriñ suma njaboot.
To benefit.
depuis bi ma géejee gis ak moom sax suma interest bi mu ngi woon si moom because mu ngi doon toppa suma affaire.
That should show that even we didn't see each other for quite a long time, but that shows that he was still interested in me or in my affairs.
Ousseynou Dabo tam the same.
The same thing applies to Ousseynou Dabo. Yes, I would like to say that in Mandinka.
Until kuluta Uncle Ousseynou Nyato Fajara Jang.
We were brought up in the presence of Ousseynou Dabo at Fajara.
Mulma londe bari badia bentemali.
People didn't Dabo.
Anim mbinki Fatu Jambang wale be futurinino.
We was married to my aunt Fatu Jambang.
Badia la Carola Nkoto Kelemu.
On the side of relationship, he's my elder brother.
Bari personally na Caron teka commande uncle na benta dawoda alisanyi ninka.
But
aning na first wife and dentally
is related to my first wife.
Mayendur. Na dinke follow ngementola Yaya Jammeh.
My first son I named after Yaya Jammeh.
Wo kulio.
The naming ceremony for that boy.
Mayendur ya beleke.
Mayendur did a lot of things. She might have done all.
I snacks all nati.
She brought in snacks.
Drinks all nati.
Drinks.
And in Fenjama.
And many other things.
Na dindin watu.
When I was a young boy,
Ntolebe dendin fence la Fajara.
We shared a fence at Fajara and take food from the kitchen.
Katu Mayendur bedokola nung hotel training school.
Because Mayendur was working at the hotel training school.
Sunkutol membe nunje fat dabo nem fanta dabo wale kada yele nyung purunga domoro taje.
The girls who were working there, Fat Dabo and Fanta Dabo, used to
Jalang
Dabo used to open the door for me to.
Ola nyin sifa la komteng.
So if you are related with people like this, something like that comes, who is not shameful, then if you are not somebody who is straightforward, then Uncle Usain will not tell me anything which I will deny. Because I was wrong on his side. I wronged him. I wronged my family. I wronged myself. But it was just childishness which happened to all. I cannot say that's an excuse.
Bari alikana njube tenka miracle mbedamento science hanye kanyesi fake.
Don't think and look at me at this present moment and think that I can do that now.
Otumbe yamfo danila itora tantolbulu.
Especially these people who suffered in our hands.
Amanya na kelanu.
It shouldn't have happened at all.
Aketale.
It happened.
Anu aketan tole nimisoleti.
But we regret it.
Kon mange jegal di ñaan ñepp ñu jegal ñu.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Singhateh. May I just take this opportunity to say that this is what the TRRC is all about, where we have committed violations against the law, where we have violated the rights of our people. We should have the decency to come out and speak the truth about it and ask for forgiveness and help heal the rifts and the bad blood amongst us as a people and bring about reconciliation. Mr. Chair, I think this is a convenient time to take our 30-minute break.
Are we proceeding with the PPP Fellows Summer situation when we come back, or are you going to another subject? Just want to know.
Yes, when we come back, we will deal with the UDP people who are...
Then maybe I can ask one quick clarification from Mr. Singhateh. When did Jame actually tell you of the plot by Senator Sabali to overthrow it?
A couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks before the actual event. It was within that range. But prior to that, the relationship between them had broken down, it had deteriorated.
And I know perhaps you would say that the circumstances weren't right for you to damage some concern.
No, sir, I did not. I had testified last Thursday that even myself and Sana, there had been a rift between us. Very unfortunate, but I'm not trying to point the finger or put the blame on him, because Jammeh can be equally obstinate, and violent nature of what was happening on the streets, and in fact, not only that, there was another incident, my own elders in the Sun, at Gambisara, and practically insulted all of them. Problem not only with me, because I didn't address that with him, but with the complaints that we were getting, and we did not want the population to be pitted against the military. And Sana Sabali's, what happened to him was inexcusable. The torture and the trial and everything that he went through, cannot compare apple with oranges, but from our part, I think we should have found a much better way to address this problem. Thank you, sir.
He is adjourned.